The morning mist clung to the Himalayan valleys like a lover's embrace as Dr. Ariadne Powell adjusted her climbing gear. Her weathered hands checked each carabiner with practiced precision while her research drone buzzed overhead, scanning the unexplored valley below. This expedition was supposed to be about finding new medicinal plants, but fate had other plans. Anomalous biological signatures detected, chirped her AI assistant through her earpiece. Mass readings inconsistent with known local flora and fauna. Ariadne squinted through her binoculars at the valley floor. Through gaps in the mist, she caught glimpses of structures that shouldn't exist, crystalline formations that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. Her heart raced with equal parts excitement and trepidation. "Record everything, Arya," she commanded her AI. "And maintain satellite uplink." As one of Earth's leading botanical geneticists, she'd learned to trust her instincts. Something extraordinary waited in that valley. The descent took hours, each step careful and measured. The air grew warmer, heavy with the scent of unknown flowers. The vegetation changed too, familiar rhododendrons gave way to massive plants she'd never seen before, with leaves larger than her entire body. The ground trembled. At first, Ariadne thought it was an earthquake, but the rhythm was too regular. Footsteps. She pressed herself against a massive tree trunk, her breath catching in her throat as a shadow fell across the clearing before her. A woman stepped into view, but one unlike any human Ariadne had ever seen. She stood at least 50 feet tall, her skin shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that shifted like auroras. Her features were striking yet gentle, framed by hair that seemed woven from living copper. She wore armor crafted from the same crystalline material Ariadne had spotted from above. The giant woman wasn't alone. Two others emerged from the mist, each carrying staff-like weapons that crackled with energy. They moved with impossible grace for beings of their size, barely disturbing the vegetation around them. "The sensors speak truth," the first giant said in a voice that resonated through Ariadne's chest. Though the language was foreign, she understood it perfectly. "A small one has entered the valley." Ariadne's scientific mind raced. The giants must be using some form of advanced biotechnology, both for their size and the apparent telepathic translation. Fight or flight instincts warred with her researcher's curiosity. Curiosity won. She stepped out from behind the tree, hands raised. "I come in peace," she called up to them. "I'm Dr. Ariadne Powell, a scientist from Earth." The lead giant's eyes widened, their amber depths swirling with emotion. She knelt down, bringing her face closer to Ariadne's level. At last, she breathed, her voice softer but still carrying immense power. "I am Thora, guardian of the Veil. The prophecies spoke of one who would come from beyond, carrying the seeds of our salvation." "Prophecies?" Ariadne asked, her scientific skepticism warring with the wonder of the moment. "Our people are dying, small one," Thora said, extending her hand palm up in invitation. "Our genetic code unravels with each generation. We have waited centuries for one who might understand our plight, one who speaks the language of life itself." Ariadne looked at the offered hand, her mind spinning with implications. As a genetic botanist, she'd studied DNA manipulation extensively. Could human genetic diversity hold the key to saving these magnificent beings? She stepped onto Thora's palm, her heart racing as she was lifted carefully to shoulder height. The valley spread out below her, and now she could see the true scope of their civilization. A city of crystal and living plant matter stretched through the valley, its architecture defying human engineering. "Our queen awaits," Thora said, her voice tinged with hope. "She will explain everything. But know this, Ariadne Powell, your arrival was foretold. You carry within you the key to our future." As they moved through the massive forest toward the city, Ariadne couldn't shake the feeling that her life's work had led to this moment. Every genetic study, every breakthrough in plant hybridization, they were all preparation for something far greater than she'd imagined. The giant women's city gleamed like a dream made real, its spires reaching toward the clouds while waterfalls of light cascaded between levels. But beneath its beauty, Ariadne sensed desperation. In the faces of the giants they passed, she saw both hope and fear. Queen Niamh waited in a chamber that seemed grown rather than built, its walls alive with bioluminescent patterns. The queen stood even taller than Thora, her presence commanding yet gentle. Her eyes held the wisdom of centuries. "Welcome, daughter of Earth," the queen said, her voice resonating through the chamber. "We have watched your kind grow, waiting for one who might bridge our worlds. Our time grows short, but perhaps in you, we shall find our redemption." Ariadne stood straighter on Thora's palm, feeling the weight of destiny on her shoulders. Whatever mysteries this hidden civilization held, whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew her life had changed forever. The true question was, could she help save a race of giants before their genetic legacy crumbled to dust? Queen Niamh's laboratory dwarfed any research facility Ariadne had ever seen. Crystal chambers taller than skyscrapers pulsed with biological data, while strands of what appeared to be living DNA spiraled through transparent columns. But it was the sadness in the queen's eyes that captured Ariadne's attention as they reviewed the genetic samples. "Our ancestors were pioneers in biological engineering," Queen Niamh explained, manipulating a holographic display with graceful fingers. "They enhanced our size, our longevity, even our connection to the living world around us. But they could not foresee the price we would pay." Ariadne studied the genetic sequences floating before her, transported between displays by Thora, who had become her constant companion. The complex helical structures showed clear signs of degradation, beautiful in their complexity but tragic in their decay. "Each generation, fewer children survive," Thora added, her voice tight with emotion. "Those who do often carry devastating mutations. We have tried everything within our power to stabilize our genome, but nothing works." Ariadne's mind raced with possibilities. "Your ancestors' modifications were brilliant but fundamentally unstable," she observed. "The human genome might offer a solution, not to maintain your current size, but to prevent further degradation. We could potentially integrate specific stability markers from our DNA. You understand, then," Queen Niamh said, "why we have watched humanity's progress in genetic science so carefully. Why we waited for someone with your specific knowledge." A thought struck Ariadne. "The valley's isolation, it's artificial, isn't it? Some kind of cloaking technology?" Thora nodded. "We call it the veil. It keeps us hidden from your world's prying eyes. But it cannot hide us forever. Already it weakens, like everything else of our making." Working together over the next several days, Ariadne and Thora developed a deep rapport. The warrior giant proved to have a keen scientific mind, quickly grasping complex genetic principles. During breaks from their research, Thora taught Ariadne about their culture, their connection to the living world, and their hopes for the future. "Our people were once numerous," Thora explained one evening, as they sat in her private garden. Ariadne rested comfortably on a crystal platform at eye level with her giant friend. "We had cities throughout these mountains, each one a marvel of bioengineering. Now, only Luminara remains, and our numbers dwindle." "How many are left?" Ariadne asked softly. "Fewer than 300, Thora replied, her bioluminescent patterns dimming with sorrow. "And only 5 children in the past decade." Ariadne reached out, placing her hand against Thora's cheek in a gesture of comfort. Despite their size difference, the connection between them felt natural, almost destined. "We'll find a way," she promised. "But I need to contact my research team. They have resources we could use." Thora's expression darkened. "The Queen fears exposure. Our history speaks of times when smaller peoples feared and hunted us. It is why we created the veil." "Times have changed," Ariadne assured her. "My team is small, discreet, and dedicated to scientific advancement. With their help, we could solve this puzzle in months instead of years." Before Thora could respond, alarms echoed through the city. The crystal structures pulsed with warning lights, and giants began rushing through the streets with purpose. "The veil," Thora gasped, scooping Ariadne up with practiced care. "It's failing faster than we predicted. We must reach the control spire." They raced through the city, Thora's long strides covering enormous distance. The control spire rose before them, a twisting structure of crystal and living matter that seemed to pierce the clouds. Inside, Queen Niamh and a group of giant technicians worked frantically at biological control interfaces. "The degradation has reached critical levels," the Queen announced, her voice heavy. "Within days, our valley will be visible to your world surveillance systems." Ariadne's mind raced. "Then we don't have a choice anymore. Let me contact my team. We can establish controlled first contact, present your people as allies and peers rather than hidden mysteries." The Queen and Thora shared a long look. In that moment, Ariadne saw centuries of fear and isolation weighing against desperate hope. "There is something else you should know," Queen Niamh said finally. "Something we had hoped to reveal gradually. The prophecy that spoke of your coming, it was not mere mysticism. We have seen possible futures, Ariadne Powell. In some, you save our people. In others." She trailed off ominously. "In others, our revelation to your world brings destruction to both our peoples," Thora finished. "The futures branch endlessly from this point. All we know is that you are the nexus of change." Ariadne stood straighter on Thora's palm, feeling the weight of not just one civilization, but potentially two, resting on her decisions. "Then we'll make sure we create the right future," she declared. "Together." The Queen nodded slowly. "Very well. Make your call, daughter of Earth. Set in motion whatever must come. But know this, there are forces in your world and ours that may not wish for our peoples to meet. Forces that would prefer we fade into extinction rather than share our biological advancements." As Ariadne reached for her satellite phone, she caught Thora's eyes. In them, she saw not just trust, but something deeper, something that transcended the vast difference in their sizes. Whatever came next, their fates were now intertwined. The phone rang once, twice, then connected. "Dr. Marcus? It's Ariadne. You might want to sit down for this." The thunder of helicopter rotors shattered the valley's tranquility. Dr. Marcus's research team had arrived, but they weren't alone. Through the dissolving veil, Ariadne spotted military aircraft mixed among the scientific vessels. Her heart sank. "This isn't right," she muttered, standing on the observation platform with Thora. "I only contacted my research team." "Your transmission was intercepted," Queen Niamh's voice carried across the platform as she approached. "Our sensors detected multiple listening posts activating after your call." Thora's hand curled protectively around the platform where Ariadne stood. "We should never have exposed ourselves," one of the council members spat from behind the Queen. "The small ones will destroy everything we've built." "Peace, Verena," the Queen commanded. "What's done is done. Ariadne, what do you suggest?" Ariadne squared her shoulders. "We stick to the plan. I'll meet them first, explain the situation. Dr. Marcus is reasonable, he can help control the military presence." The helicopters landed in a cleared area below the city, their downdraft bending the massive flowers. Ariadne watched as familiar figures emerged, Dr. Marcus with his wild gray hair, her graduate students Raj and Liana. But her attention focused on the uniformed man who stepped forward, General Drake, known for his hardline stance on biological security threats. Thora lowered Ariadne to the ground with gentle care. "I will be watching," she promised, her voice carrying worry in something deeper, something neither of them had dared name. Ariadne approached the new arrivals, painfully aware of hundreds of giant eyes watching from the city above. "Dr. Marcus," she called out. "I see you brought some unexpected guests." "Dr. Powell," General Drake cut in before Marcus could respond. You've put us in quite a situation. A hidden civilization of giant humanoids with advanced biotechnology. The security implications are staggering. The Luminarians are peaceful, Ariadne countered. They need our help, not our suspicion. Peaceful or not, they represent the single greatest potential threat to global security we've ever encountered. Drake gestured, and soldiers began unloading equipment. This valley is now under military quarantine. The ground trembled as Thora stepped forward, her full warrior's height casting a shadow over the gathering. Other giants emerged from the city, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing with alarm. This is their home, Ariadne said firmly, stepping between Drake and Thora. They've lived here in isolation for centuries, harming no one. They're dying, General. We have a chance to save them, to learn from them. And if their genetic problem spreads to the human population? Drake demanded. If their deteriorating DNA somehow contaminates ours? We can't take that risk. Dr. Marcus finally found his voice. The general has a point about safety, Ariadne, but... He paused, looking up at Thora with scientific wonder. This could be the greatest breakthrough in human history. We need to study them, understand them. We are not specimens for your examination, Thora's voice resonated with authority. We are people. We offered friendship and knowledge freely, asking only for help in return. Tensions mounted as more military helicopters appeared through the weakening veil. Queen Niamh's voice carried from the city, perhaps we were wrong to reveal ourselves. The prophecy warned of division and strife. No, Ariadne said firmly. We can't let fear drive us apart. She turned to address both groups. The Luminarians' genetic engineering could revolutionize medicine, cure diseases. Their biological technology could solve climate change, end food shortages. But none of that matters if we don't trust each other. She felt Thora's presence behind her, supporting her. Dr. Marcus stepped forward, clearly moved. But Drake remained stone-faced. You have 1 week, the general announced. 1 week to prove these giants aren't a threat, to show their condition isn't contagious. After that, I'm declaring this valley a restricted zone. As the group separated, the scientists setting up research stations while soldiers established perimeter posts, Ariadne felt the weight of time pressing down. 1 week to save centuries of civilization, to bridge the gap between two worlds. Later, in the privacy of Thora's garden, Ariadne let her frustration show. There has to be a way to prove you're not a threat. Perhaps, Thora said softly, her bioluminescent patterns creating dancing lights around them, we need to show them who we truly are. She hesitated, then continued. Our ancestors left us more than just their modified genes, Ariadne. They left us knowledge, power, and weapons. Weapons we chose never to use. Weapons? Ariadne asked, startled. Tomorrow, the Queen will show you our deepest vault. What you learn there may determine all our fates. Thora's hand cupped around her gently. But tonight I need you to know something. The giant warrior's patterns shifted to deep blues and purples, colors Ariadne had learned were associated with profound emotion. In all our histories, no Luminarian has ever felt for a small one what I feel for you. Ariadne's heart raced as the implications of Thora's words sank in. Their worlds were on the brink of conflict, their peoples divided by fear and suspicion. Yet here, in this moment, size meant nothing. She reached out, placing her hand against Thora's cheek, feeling the subtle warmth of her bioluminescence. Whatever comes next, she whispered, we face it together. Above them, the weakening veil shimmered like tears in reality, while in the distance, military radios crackled with suspicious reports. They had 1 week to change the course of two civilizations, and somehow find a way to bridge the gap between their hearts. The ancient vault lay deep beneath Luminara, accessible through crystal tunnels that pulsed with living light. Queen Niamh led Ariadne and Thora through passages that seemed to breathe, their walls contracting and expanding with an ancient rhythm. What you're about to see, the Queen said, her voice echoing, has not been viewed by outside eyes since our ancestors first sealed this chamber. The vault door was alive, a massive organic membrane reinforced with crystalline structures. It parted at the Queen's touch, revealing a chamber that defied comprehension. Suspended in massive crystalline columns were objects that made Ariadne's scientific mind real, machines that seemed to bend reality itself, weapons that hummed with terrible power, and at the center, a massive DNA helix that flickered with impossible colors. The legacy chamber, Thora breathed, her patterns shifting to deep reverent purples. Our ancestors' final gift, and their greatest burden. Your ancestors weren't just advanced, Ariadne realized, studying the ancient technology. They were far beyond anything humanity has imagined. These devices, they're not just biological engineering. They're reality manipulation. Yes, Queen Neve confirmed. We were not simply made larger. We were meant to be custodians of life itself. The ability to alter matter, to reshape genetics at will, this was our birthright. But it came with a price. The Queen gestured to the central helix. This is the original sequence, the pure genetic code our ancestors possessed before the degradation began. But it's locked to us now. Each attempt to access it accelerates our decline. Because your current genetics can't handle the power anymore, Ariadne said, pieces falling into place. Your ancestors didn't just modify your DNA, they created an entirely new form of life. But it's unstable, breaking down over generations. And now you understand why some among your military leaders are right to fear us, the Queen said gravely. In our prime, we could have reshaped your world with a thought. Even now, dying, we possess power that could devastate continents. Thora's hand curved protectively around Ariadne. We chose peace. Generation after generation, we chose to fade rather than dominate. A commotion echoed from above. One of the giant guards rushed in. My queen. The human military, they've detected the energy signatures from the vault. They're demanding explanations. Ariadne felt time slipping away. Let me talk to them. If we show them you've had this power all along but never used it. No, a new voice interrupted. Counselor Verena stepped from the shadows, other dissenting council members behind her. We've hidden long enough. These weapons could force the humans to help us, to give us their genetic diversity without risk of betrayal. That would spark a war, Thora protested. A war we would win, Verena countered. Even dying, we are giants. With our ancestors' weapons. Enough. Queen Neve's voice shook the chamber. We did not preserve these weapons to use them. But. She turned to Ariadne, perhaps there is another way. The original sequence holds more than just our genetic code. It contains the full knowledge of our ancestors' genetic mastery. Understanding dawned in Ariadne's eyes. If I could access it, human genetics interfacing with your ancestral knowledge. It could kill you, Thora said, her patterns flashing with fear. The power that burns out our children. Could work differently with human DNA, Ariadne finished. A bridge between our species, just as I've become a bridge between our peoples. Above, military radio chatter grew more insistent. They could hear General Drake demanding to know what power source they'd detected. Time was running out. There are prophecies about this too, Queen Neve said softly. A joining of bloodlines, a sacrifice freely offered. But they are unclear about the outcome. Ariadne looked up at Thora, seeing the fear and love warring in her giant companion's expression. Then she turned to the original sequence, its impossible colors calling to her. How do we begin? Ariadne, no, Thora pleaded. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Ariadne said gently. Your people are dying. Humanity isn't ready for your ancestors' weapons. But together, we might find a path forward. She squeezed Thora's finger. Trust me. Queen Niamh stepped forward, her patterns shifting to ceremonial configurations. The process cannot be reversed. If you survive, you will be changed forever. I already am changed, Ariadne said, thinking of Thora, of the wonders she'd seen, of the future she could help create. Forever started the moment I entered this valley. The queen began the ancient preparations while Thora kept anxious watch. Outside, tensions mounted as military forces demanded answers. In the vault, surrounded by the legacy of an advanced civilization, Ariadne prepared to attempt what no human ever had, a direct interface with the genetic knowledge of giants. The original sequence pulsed before her, waiting. One way or another, the next few moments would change the course of both their species forever. Would you like me to continue with the final part? Part 5 will bring all the threads together, revealing the outcome of Ariadne's sacrifice and the fate of both peoples. The original sequence engulfed Ariadne in light that defied description. Her consciousness expanded, filled with generations of genetic knowledge. Every cell in her body sang with new awareness as the ancient power of the luminarians flowed through her human DNA. Her patterns, Thora gasped. She's manifesting patterns. Indeed, Ariadne's skin had begun to shimmer with bioluminescence, but in ways the giants had never seen. Where their patterns followed set configurations, hers flowed like liquid starlight, adapting and evolving moment by moment. The merger is stabilizing, Queen Niamh observed, monitoring the process through the living technology around them. Her human DNA, it's not just accepting the changes, it's improving them. Above ground, the situation was deteriorating. General Drake's forces had detected the massive energy surge from the vault and were preparing to breach the city's defenses. Dr. Marcus and his team argued desperately for restraint, but military protocol was winning over scientific curiosity. In the vault, Ariadne's transformation reached its peak. When she opened her eyes, they shimmered with the same impossible colors as the original sequence. I understand now, she said, her voice resonating with new power. Your ancestors didn't fail, they were preparing for this moment. She reached out, touching the central helix. Information flooded through her, generations of genetic science combining with her human perspective. They knew their changes wouldn't be stable long-term. They were waiting for new genetic input, not just human DNA, but human adaptability. The prophecy, Queen Niamh breathed. Not just a joining of bloodlines, but of evolutionary paths. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the city. Military forces are moving in, a guard reported. They're claiming the energy readings match weapons of mass destruction. Let me talk to them, Ariadne said. They need to see the truth. Thora lifted her gently, protectively. You're still changing. We don't know if. Trust me, Ariadne said, touching Thora's cheek. Like I trusted you. Minutes later, they emerged from the city. Ariadne stood on a crystal platform at eye level with Thora, facing the assembled military forces. Her skin shimmered with ever-changing patterns, a visual demonstration of what was possible when their species cooperated. Your weapons aren't needed here, she called out, her voice carrying new authority. What you detected wasn't a threat, it was a breakthrough. She gestured, and her patterns shifted, displaying complex genetic sequences in living light. The luminarians aren't dying anymore. And humanity just gained allies who can help us solve our greatest challenges. Dr. Marcus stepped forward, his scientific mind clearly racing with possibilities. The bioluminescent patterns, they're displaying actual genetic code. The applications for medical research alone. Stand down, Dr. Powell, General Drake ordered. Whatever they've done to you. They've done nothing to me that I didn't choose, Ariadne interrupted. I am still human, General. I've just become more. And I can prove the benefits of cooperation. She reached out, her patterns shifting to healing configurations. A wounded soldier's cut sealed instantly. Nearby plants grew with renewed vigor. The very air seemed to pulse with life. This is what the Luminarians were meant to be, she explained. Not warriors, but guardians of life itself. And now, together, we can be more. Hours later, as the military withdrew and scientific teams began ethical cooperation protocols, Ariadne stood with Thora in their garden. She was still human-sized, the transformation had given her the giant's power, not their stature, but it no longer seemed to matter. You changed everything, Thora said softly, her patterns synchronizing with Ariadne's in a display of affection. We changed everything, Ariadne corrected. Your ancestors knew humanity would eventually reach a point where we could help stabilize their work. They just couldn't predict exactly how. Queen Niamh joined them, her expression serene. The first children born with the new, stable genetics will arrive soon. A true joining of our peoples, not through size, but through our shared commitment to life. Ariadne smiled, watching her patterns dance with Thora's. And those children will have quite a story to tell, about how love between two people from vastly different worlds helped save both their peoples. Speaking of which, Thora said, her patterns shifting to deep romantic purples, now that you can read genetic patterns, do you understand what mine have been trying to tell you? Ariadne laughed, her own patterns responding with equal warmth. I understood long before I could see them, my love. Above them, the valley's veil had completely faded, revealing their city to the world. But they no longer needed to hide. A new chapter was beginning, one where giants and humans would work together to protect and nurture life throughout the world. And at the heart of it all, an impossible love had blossomed, proving that the greatest barriers are only as insurmountable as we believe them to be. The end.